Hi everyone, so today we're going to solve a LeetCode problem which is called valid palindrome 2. And the problem is, given a string s, return true if the s can be a palindrome after deleting at most one character from it. So let's take note of this bold statement here and let's go into the examples so that we can understand the problem clearly. So the first example is ABA. There's no explanation here and the output is true. But if you look closely, ABA, when we reverse it, we will have ABA, which is the same with the original input. That means that ABA is already a palindrome and we have to return true. The next example is ABCA. First, we have to reverse ABCA and see if ABCA is already a palindrome. So ABCA will become ACBA, which is not a palindrome, right? But going back to this bold statement here that we can delete at most one, based on the explanation, you could delete the character C. So let's try removing character C. And after removing character C, we'll have ABA, and we reverse it, and ABA is a palindrome, and that is true based on the example 1. And then we have the example 3, ABC. So first, let's see if ABC is a palindrome by reversing it. And ABC is not a palindrome based on this reversal. So let's try removing each character from ABC. Let's start with letter A. So if we remove letter A, we will have BC. And when we reverse it, it will become CB. And it's not a palindrome, right? So let's remove letter P. We will have AC. And then we reverse it, it will become CA. And still not a palindrome. Let's try removing letter C. And we will end up having letter AB, and when we reverse it, it will become BA, which is not a palindrome. So as we look closely here, we try to remove each characters from ABC, and we really can't generate a valid palindrome, so the output for this example 3 is false. So how do we solve this problem? So going back into the explanations that we had a while ago, every time that we were running through on these examples here, what we were doing first of all is to check if the input word is a palindrome, right? By reversing the word. So our first step in order to solve this is to check if the input is a palindrome. And the next step is that we have to know if we can delete one character on the input string if it's not a palindrome. So let's say we have a word civic. In order for us to know that civic is a palindrome, is that we can compare the first character of civic and the last character of it. So let's say we have a pointer I, and we will start with the first character of civic, and then a pointer J, which will point to the last character of civic, let's say length -1. So if we compare C and C, which is the first and last character of civic, and they're equal, we just move letter I onto the next character, which is the letter I, and then we'll move letter J onto the next character going to the middle, and that will also be letter I. And then we will compare them again. And once they're equal, there will be a remaining character here, which is the letter B. And we don't have to check letter B. Once there's a single character in the middle, we can already say that the whole word is a palindrome. So let's have another example. Let's say we have civic again, but there's a letter A in front of civic. We will create again another two variables, which will start with the first character of the input word, and then J, which will point to the last character of the input word. So we will compare the first character, which is letter C, and then the last character, which is letter A. And then on this comparison, we can say that C is not equal to letter A, right? So since C and A are not equal, what we're going to do is we will have an assumption that by removing any of these characters, we can form a valid palindrome. So if we remove letter C, we will end up having this substring here. And then if we remove letter A, we will have this substring here. And we will check if these substrings can form a palindrome. So is civic a palindrome? It is. So we put true here. And then IVICA is not a palindrome, so we put F here. And our logic condition here will be OR. So if any of this will return true, then we have to return true on our output. Because technically we have removed one character, and it gives us a valid palindrome. So let's have another example, which is there's a root word palindrome, but we have to remove two characters from it. So let's say the word civic, and there's letter A in front of civic, and then there's letter P at the end of civic. So first we'll compare the first and last character, and then they're not equal, right? So we have to virtually remove letter A, and we will end up having this substring here. And we will also virtually remove letter B, and we will end up having this substring here. And we will check if this substring will form a palindrome. This one is not, and this one is not a palindrome. And our logic here is false, so if any of them is true, we will return true, but in this case, both of them are false, so we will return false. So as you can see on this example, even if there is a root word civic, but we have to remove two characters, we are returning false, because if we remove one more character, then we're violating the rule here, which is at most one. So this is our thought process on this problem. Let's go ahead and code the solution. So on this solution, we have to declare two variables, which is I and j. And I will start with 0, and j will start with s the length -1. And we also have to declare our while loop, which while I is less than j. So I and j will move all the way to the middle, and we don't want them to overlap, so while I is less than j. And then we have two conditions to check here. First is that what if the character at I is equal to character at j, and based on our explanation a while ago, we just have to increment I and decrement j. So if both characters are equal, then we will just move all the way to the middle. But what if at some point character I is not equal to character j? So if s the char at I is not equal to s the char at j, what we're going to do is we will check the substring from I plus 1 all the way to j, and also the substring from I and all the way to j minus 1. So how do we do that? We return is palindrome. So we're going to create a helper method here just to make our code clean. So this helper method will have three arguments, which is the string s, and the start index, which is I plus 1 for the first substring, and that will end until j. And then the second one is palindrome, the string s, and then it will start with the index I, and it will end until j minus 1. So let's go ahead and create this helper method. And then we have to create our while loop here. So this is the same logic with this while loop here. So we're gonna check if the substring is a palindrome by moving the start and end all the way to the middle. So we'll start as less than end. And if both of them are equal, so we just increment start and decrement end. But what if they are not equal? What we're going to do is, if s that char at start is not equal to s that char at end, then we will return false. That means that the word is not a palindrome. The substring is not a palindrome, and we have to return false. Otherwise, if we pass this value here, it means that the substring is a palindrome and we have to return true. So we have to return true here. Then on this value, we're missing a return true also. If the whole given string s is a palindrome, then we have to return true if we pass this whole while loop here. So yeah, this is the whole code, and it's looking good so far. Let's go ahead and submit it. So as you can see here, our solution is success, and the runtime is 5 ms and faster than 95%. So yeah, that's all for this problem, and let's meet again on the next LeetCode problem.